look, governance is a big issue for us all. It's particularly an issue for me as leader of the Liberal Party. And I've put too much effort into it over the last few years. But can I say to you, in all honesty, that when I talk to people who want to run an axe through local councils across this state or across this city, what they're really talking to me about, as I said on radio this morning, is the state's planning system. What people have forgotten is that before Jeff Kennett ran an axe through his local government system in Victoria and helped himself lose office, it's an issue for him to account, it actually transformed Victoria's planning system, as have other states around this nation. And there are states around this nation that have better planning systems than New South Wales, but have the same local government structure that accepts that local people deserve to have a right. I say again, because Liberals and Nationals trust local people to make right decisions for themselves, deserve to have a right to elect the people who get to make decisions for them. We are determined to push local decision making down as far or as close as possible to the front line as possible, because we understand that people who live with those decisions and who will directly benefit from those decisions have a much greater interest in making the right decisions than some others. Making localism for us work is less about where lines are drawn on a map and more about the capability and the systems that exist in those areas. And it requires state government to be clear about what objectives it's setting out to achieve and the standards that people are expected to meet. But coming back to planning, which, depending on which speech you're listening to, and I've heard 3 different planning ministers, I think, in 3 years, say that New South Wales has the best planning system in the nation. And they normally say that just after they've moved the latest round of amendments to that planning system. Part 3A is a symptom of the dysfunction of the state's planning system. As the Madden scandal, there's no brothels involved, as the Simon Madden scandal reveals in Victoria, putting power in the hands of ministers to decide major projects risks good projects, meritorious projects, being knocked back for the same problem that's infected this state for too long, base politics. Whether you have a good proposal or not, whether that proposal meets the state's standing laws or not, should be an issue for consideration within a framework that enables merit-based decisions to be made in a timely fashion. It shouldn't involve the sort of politics we currently see at a local level. It shouldn't involve the politics we see at a state level, at a ministerial level. Because as long as that happens, politicians who are elected in this state every 4 years will from time to time be tempted. So, when it comes to governance in Sydney, when it comes to what I believe, what people talk to me mostly about, which is the dysfunctionality of our planning system, we're determined to tackle the fundamental problem. We're committed to reforming the planning system, a planning system that in 1979, when the Act first came in, was capable of meeting the state's economic needs in a timely way, involving people, communities, but is no longer today. It has been patched and patched and patched, but it's almost unrecognisable, and that's why there's a procession of people lining up at the department or the minister to try and get decisions made. Well, I don't think that's a recipe for moving forward. I don't think that's a modern planning system. We're determined to provide certainty. We're determined to ensure that there's merit-based decisions. We're determined to constrain the politics in this, as in other areas, and we'll be making some more announcements about that shortly. So, and the last issue, of course, big idea number 10, of course, revolves around the HSC. And as a former Shadow Minister for Education, trust me, I understand the importance of the HSC. My eldest son's only 16, but even I'm starting to get nervous. And I know that we have the best HSC credential in the country, and I know from the last time it was reviewed that the process is fraught whenever you make changes to it. Look, we simply accept that if children stay longer at school, we have to provide the diverse learning streams to keep them engaged, to keep them challenged, and to prepare them for the work life that best suits their abilities and aspirations. We need to understand that there are people across this city, across this state, who have different abilities and aspirations, and we should no more seek to produce a one-size-fits-all education system in terms of the end product than we should in terms of running a health system. A business expects skills gaps to be filled so that you can be productive and competitive. And we should have a state government that takes a leaf out of governments elsewhere in this nation, which seeks to engage in the research to predict and to project what the skills requirements of the states will be in 5, 10, 15, 20 years' time, and that has an education system, both school and training, that is receptive to it. One of the policies we launched in January, which didn't get the attention it deserves, was a critical issue that, you know, measuring outcomes is not the goal any more than economic growth is the goal. Economic growth, the goal, of course, is opportunities and the ability of people to pursue those opportunities for their own worth and the worth of the community. Measuring in education should be about directing resources better to produce, to meet the needs, to address the concerns that arise. Government have had access for the better part of 20 years to literacy and numeracy figures in this state, and yet last year the Auditor General tells us 13,000 kids left primary school not meeting basic reading, writing and maths standards. 1 in 5, I think it is, in Year 9 had the same problem. What does the government do? Well, they just measure it. What we announced in January was a fundamental reshaping of the way in which we tackle literacy and numeracy, using the results, particularly the early intervention results that come with testing in early years, and then matching those results with resources put behind to give one-on-one work and remediation work to those kids identified early as either failing or being in danger of fail, so that they leave primary school set for secondary school, and that they leave secondary school set for employment, training or some other life with those base skills that we would expect them to have. So I'm pleased to be here. I've probably spoken too long, but what I want to say to you is that next year's election is probably the most important that this state has faced, at least in the last generation. And in my view, as someone who loves his history, probably one of the most important elections that the state has ever faced. For me, the choice to be made is simple. I want to grow New South Wales, and to do so with the same sense of resolve, determination, innovation and aspiration that we saw that taken in the 1990s, that delivered us, you know, the world's best game in the year 2000. I have no doubt that the people of this state share those aspirations. I have absolutely no hesitation in saying that the people of this state genuinely want to be number one again, not as some sense of self-pride, but because of the opportunities they know that have been lost, the opportunities they seek to restore for themselves and for their children. Can I thank you for the work that you've done today? Can I thank you for the ongoing association you have with myself and my colleagues, because the greatest challenge that we will face is to repair the outlook of our state. The greatest challenge we'll face, as I said before, is to tap into all the energies, all the skills and talents that exist across this state in doing so. And what we understand is that the longer you're in office, the deafer you become to reality, the more opaque becomes what truth is, and that is our greatest challenge. So associations with business chambers, associations with non-government groups and other peak bodies are going to be critical for us, not just this side of the election, but also afterwards. Thank you.